がここにいるうちの本物のスクールスポーツのために行こうぜベイビーバンこの国は気をつけて、現実になることがありますからね。
All right, so we're going to go ahead and continue the long-standing tradition here on True School Sports. We're talking about Japan's favorite boxing son, Naoya Monster Inoue. Yes, and I always have fun talking about Inoue, good, bad, or indifferent. So this will be no different. But couple things, couple pieces of information, a couple points of discussion about the monster that I want to get to. So get a snack and make sure you got some time to listen because this will be a good video to listen to. First point of discussion when it comes to the monster that I wanted to speak about was this. So like 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks ago, give or take, I saw an article on Boxing Scene that was written by Lance Pugmire. And it was really interesting. It talked about the idea of Naoya Monster Inoue fighting on Cinco De Mayo in the States. And this obviously came off the heels of the announcement that Inoue, or that Canelo, I should say, Canelo Alvarez is signed a 4-fight deal with Turki Al Sheikh. And part of that requirement, part of that deal, which is going to be good, bad, or indifferent, which may or may not be good for Canelo, is that he's not going to be fighting on Cinco de Mayo and Mexican Independence Day. He's going to be fighting at different times. So right now, there is a vacancy for these Cinco de Mayo dates. And we know that for years, decades upon decades in boxing in the States, one of the big marquee dates for any fighter is to fight on Cinco de Mayo, right? Now, Inoue is not Mexican. Cinco de Mayo is a Mexican holiday. But as Floyd Mayweather has shown us, if you're truly a special fighter, you don't gotta be Mexican to fight on Cinco de Mayo, right? And the great thing about Inoue is that the weights he fights in have a lot of Mexicans and Mexican American opponents. So this person in this article, and I'll leave the article for you guys in the description so you can read it for yourself. But the person in this article, this is what they said about the possibility of Inoue fighting on Cinco de Mayo. They stated the following, and I quote: "It's a great idea. Las Vegas is used to having fights on Cinco de Mayo weekend. It would not interfere with any other fight times. The great Inoue is meeting a proud representative of Mexico in Dea Picasso in this customary event in which all of these Mexican warriors have fought, like Salvador Sanchez, Julio Cesar Chavez, Oscar de la Hoya, Juan Manuel Marquez, and Canelo Alvarez. There must be a fight in Las Vegas on that date." They then go on by stating, I quote, "There is no interference with anything else, and bringing a Cinco de Mayo fight to Las Vegas is something the sport has done for so long. It makes perfect sense." So let's unpack this. Let's unpack the possibility of Inoue fighting Dea Picasso on Cinco de Mayo, and let's unpack the possibility of Inoue maybe becoming a regularity fighting on Cinco de Mayo. So here's my stance on it. Naoya Inoue, from a global standpoint, so I'm not just talking about Japan, but I'm talking about around the world. You know, we know I know more than most people in America how big of a deal he is in Japan, right? Massive deal in Japan. You know, he's got a fan base in England because he's beat up some British fighters. He's boxed in, I think, it was Scotland one time. And then, you know, for all the talk of Inoue never fighting in America, his fights have been on ESPN, being aired on ESPN for years in America. And before that, he was fighting on HBO in America. So he's got an American fan base too. So my thing is, this date should only be reserved for a A-level fighter, someone who's really a special fighter, and Inoue definitely is that. And what makes it interesting is that, you know, a Japanese fighter has never been at this level in boxing, you know, in the modern era, you know, where they can cross. No Japanese fighter has ever crossed over like Inoue has done and is attempting to still do in some regards, right? And he's got a lot of Mexican opponents. I mean, so you just look at the potential opponents in and around his weight. You have Dea Picasso, who he's going to fight later on this year. You have Rafael Espinoza, who a lot of people look at as the toughest fight, the toughest matchup out there for him in the featherweight division. And Espinoza has been able to get a lot of backing from the Mexican community and the Mexican American community, right? So you got Rafael Espinoza. You have Luis Neri, who's now a featherweight again. If he gets a title, that they could revisit that fight, and that would do good numbers still in a rematch if he's able to get a title or become a mandatory or something like that. You got that. You got Angelo Leo, which Mexican-American fighter, two-time world champion, He still has to build himself up a bit more from a commercial standpoint, but definitely a worthy opponent for Inoue when Inoue does inevitably decide to go up to featherweight. So there's options for him, and I'm sure that there's probably one or two fighters I'm forgetting, but there's options and there's a possibility to make something really fun and really different happen with Inoue fighting on Cinco de Mayo. And I think, look, Canelo Alvarez gave up that spot. There's a vacancy right now, so someone's got to fill that spot. You know, and this is a unique time in history where Inoue has graduated to such a high level of superstardom to where now it's like, okay, you don't mind rolling the dice with him because he's such a dominant fighter. He's such a entertaining fighter. He's such a knockout artist that he's going to get people they want to see more times than not. And there's enough Mexicans and Mexican-Americans in and around his weight to go around. So I love this idea, and I would love to see boxing for at least this year experiment with the idea. Don't put Inoue in a massive venue, but put him, bring him to Vegas. Let him box like the Mandalay Bay or maybe like the Park MGM, which is a beautiful venue, which is smaller. See what kind of business you can do there, and then just gradually build it up to something bigger than that. You know, boxing has to continue this tradition because it's been something that's been a net positive for boxing, not just in America, but it's been a platform for boxers all around the world to build themselves and make a career for themselves. Boxing on Cinco de Mayo in the States, whether it be in the main event or on the undercard. So yeah, I'm 100% behind the idea of Inoue fighting in Las Vegas and trying to fill that void. You know. The second thing I wanted to touch on in this video is another really interesting article came out from sportyco.com, which sportyco.com, for those that don't know, it's a website that's just basically dedicated to the the business of sports, you know, money in sports, the business aspect of sports, and they published a list of the top 100 highest paid athletes in the world, you know, across all sports, and they combined each person's earnings in 2024, what they get paid from, you know, their teams, combined with their endorsements, and that's how you got ranked. So, like for example, the highest paid athlete on this list was Cristiano Ronaldo, who made $250 million from his contract with the Saudi Arabian team Al Nassr, and $45 million in endorsements, which came out to a grand total of $260 million. He is the world's highest paid athlete. The highest paid boxer in the world is Tyson Fury with $140 million from his contracts and $7 million in endorsements, so $147 million. And there's many other boxers on this list. You know, a lot of the highest paid boxers are fighters that have fought in Saudi. We know Turkey Al Sheikh is paying these guys, you know, handsomely to fight out there to advertise his country. But, you know, Inoue did pretty good for himself. Inoue cracked this list. He came in at number 81. So he's the 81st highest paid athlete in the entire world across all sports. He made $35 million, you know, just from his fights, you know, and then he made $7 million from his endorsement deals, which came out to a grand total of $42 million. So, you know, listen, to be a fighter below the lightweight division that's raking in that kind of money, it just goes to show you the commercial juggernaut that Inoue is in the world, you know? And it's funny because if you look at some of the people he's ranked in and around, if you guys watch other sports, like just below Inoue, tied with Inoue at 81 was Harry Kane, the famous British striker for Bayern Munich, who, you know, he's Naoya Inoue is making Harry Kane money. And, you know, that European, you know, striker money is different. So to be in that tax bracket and you're a freaking super bantamweight in boxing from Japan, I mean, we've never really seen anybody from Japan with this level of crossover appeal, commercial value, and it's why, you know, he's more impressive for what he does in the ring, but I think it's damn near just as impressive what he's been able to do outside the ring with the money and attention and just what he's done for boxing, you know, from a attention standpoint, from a, you know, just awareness standpoint. He has been so great for boxing in Japan. And when I was in Japan, I'll tell you this about Inoue. When I was in Japan, I met a lot of young kids, and, you know, a lot of us didn't speak the same language, but I met a lot of young kids, and I would talk with them through my interpreters. That, you know, a lot of them would tell me Inoue is the reason I decided to box. And I've talked to people at gyms across Japan, from Tokyo, from Okayama to Yokohama, Japan. Everywhere I went to in Japan, where I went to gyms, I would ask trainers and coaches at the gym, like, what impact has Inoue had on youth boxing here? And a lot of them would tell me, like, yeah, when he really fought Donaire in that World Boxing Super Series, and he really started to make a name for himself in boxing, since that time, since 2020, 2021, there has been an uptick in the amount of the youth of Japan, Japanese youth in Japan, that wants to participate in boxing. So he's had a great deal of impact in the ring from what he's accomplished, what he's generated for the Japanese boxing economy, and just the attention he's generated for boxing in general, and for the inspiration he's given the youth in Japan, even in the States. I know a lot of American kids. I know American amateur boxers and young American pros who tell me, hey, the Monster Inoue is one of my favorite fighters. So he's had a big impact on the sport, and yeah, it's showing in the numbers. So yeah, the 81st highest paid athlete in the world, the 5th highest paid boxer. The only boxers that got paid more than Inoue on this list was Jake Paul. Jake Paul made $48 million. Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua, Canelo, Usyk, and Tyson Fury. So there you have it. I'll leave the list for you guys in the description so you can read it for yourself and come to your own surmise. And yeah, you can give me your thoughts. And yeah, leave your comments down below. Make sure you guys take the time to subscribe. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys. Thank you for watching another video on the untouchable True School Sports Empire. For more great boxing content just like this, make sure you guys click right over here.
Keep watching my boy BT put on the best interviews out here.